There's some holes in this house. There's some holes in this house. There's some holes in this house. Sorry.
Hibbity-bibbity-bop.
I lost it a
Sorry.
little bit there. Whew. Welcome to Stoner's Point of View, show where we provide high-level analysis of music and movies and our impressions of such while under the influence of legal Canadian cannabis. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-hosts, TP, the Tower of Power, Terrell Parker. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, Brad. How are you?
I'm not bad, man. Not bad. I'll be better once we're through the song portion of the show and onto the movie portion of the show. But I'm doing all right. And of course, we have Mr. PF Flyer himself, Big Philly style, Phil Froze. How you doing, brother?
Up until a little while ago, I was doing very good, but now I'm in I have a very specific problem that's bumming me out right now. But perhaps you fellows can relate.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of fucking cactus pickers in me right now, man. My wife just asked me to move a cactus, and of course I got shit all in my hands, and they're little spiny ones.
Oh man!
That I don't really notice until I move my hands. So if you see me picking at stuff today, it's literal cacti.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I mean, who asked you to move cactuses right before a podcast?
My wife.
Oh, okay.
Hey Phil. Hey Phil. At least she didn't ask you to move the porcupine, right?
I don't get it. Why would we have a porcupine?
Anyway, enough about the personal anecdotes there. I am ready to move on. First though, if you don't follow us yet on social media, please get at us at the Stoners POV on Instagram and Twitter, or thestonerspov.com, where you can find everything in one nice, convenient place. Also, I guess I'll get this out of the way now. We want to shout out LeafWire. LeafWire is the world's largest platform for cannabis businesses. At leafwire.com, you'll find a safe, welcoming platform where you'll be able to share news, promote events, find business partners or employees, look for investors, or just simply network. It's like the LinkedIn of cannabis, folks, without the baggage. LeafWire, no stigma, just business. And let's get down to business, gentlemen. Eventually, on this episode, if you stick with us and you grind through it, we're going to get to the 1997 John Woo action flick Face Off, which has Travolta, it has Cage. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. But first, I want to apologize in advance. We are going to need to get to our song today, and it is going to be Cardi B's raunchy rap-ish song WAP.
You know what, guys? I just realized this, and this isn't even a bit at all. I'm almost done my beer, and I realize I'm going to need another beer for this. So just give me one moment, fellas.
Yeah.
In the meantime, while we're waiting for Phil to get a beer, I just have a question to start off the WAP portion of the show.
Sure.
I wanted to ask, is this quite possibly the filthiest song that is out there that was like accepted, or like what's a more filthy song? I'll go first. The filthiest song that I've heard before I heard WAP was a song that was originally called I Want to Fuck You, but it became popular called I Want to Love You by Akon. I don't know if you guys know that song. It's kind of like a bit of a dance song.
Well, and here's the thing.
It's fairly filthy.
Like,
it's fairly filthy.
Filthy lyrics aside, like I will be the first to admit that I'm a bit of a lyric aficionado, and I don't love filthy lyrics. But I will say, like, Bloodhound Gang did a pretty filthy song years ago called The Bad Touch, and it was a good song because it was well written and actually sounded good. So with that, in that kind of vein, I just want to take a little side note, because this is the Stoners POV and side notes are the name of the game. We are recording this episode on Eric Clapton's birthday. So number one, happy birthday, Eric, you legend. Number two, I apologize that we had to invoke your name during an episode where we're covering this song. And for what it's worth, I would rather be covering Eric Clapton's worst song ever written, which I don't even know what that is because they're mostly good. But I would rather be doing it than this one. Just
Phil, we never got Phil's answer though. Phil, what's a filthier song than WAP to you?
Like I know they're out there, but you'd be getting into like some like insane clown posse shit or something like that. You know, like yeah. I think
I'm glad you
I
actually.
think he's probably talking about filthier shit than this with like a fat guy and a little guy in
Hmm.
clown makeup. You
I'm
know?
glad you brought up ICP because it was actually at the end of my notes, but I'll get to it now. Like I actually got some ICP vibes at times in the song. Just it's the same general type of content, and also just the way that the music in the background is like those same three low notes that just kind of go on, but they have this darkness to them that kind of
Mhm.
invoked ICP vibes a little bit to me when I was all high
Yeah.
listening to it. So
That's actually a really interesting comparison. I think the only difference is that like ICP is kind of known as a joke, whereas this song is like a big song.
mm,
Yeah.
Like this is like a cultural phenomenon. This song, really.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I definitely want to, I definitely want to discuss that as well. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know, like it's just like this. It's just not a good song. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like it's just objectively not good.
Well,
And like, and
and
it's
when
paraded around like it's like this art piece when like
yeah,
it's just a filthy rap song. Like, there's so many filthy rap songs, and
yeah,
like this isn't like I am woman, hear me roar. It's wet ass pussy. Like,
yeah,
it's
like
just supposed to be silly. I don't think it was intended to be this women's anthem. I think it was just
for sure.
like these two girls getting together or two women getting together and being like, yo, let's write a filthy ass track. And that's what they did. And it's just not a very good one.
I agree. And the samples they use actually, the "Whores in This House" part is Frank Ski's, and he did it in 1993. And the thing about like sampling a part of a song for another song is like usually it's just like a snippet. Like I don't know if you guys remember that Crazy Town song "Butterfly." Obviously, they sampled
Yeah.
the Red Hot Chili Peppers' "Pretty Little Ditty," but it was just a little chunk of "Pretty Little Ditty" at the end that they sampled over and over. Whereas I don't know if you go back and listen to Frank Ski's "Whores in This House," it's the exact same as the sample here. Like it's that sample over and over and over in his song too.
Well, well, it's the vocal sample, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of hip hop songs use samples that you don't even actually know that it's a
Right.
sample, and that's just not
Mhm.
just with hip hop either. Like you look at, there's tons of groups like Defunk by
Daft Punk.
Da Punk. That's sampled. Like, so I'm not. I don't have anything against the sample. I think the main thing I want to talk about this song, like, forget the lyrics, forget the production. This song was a huge song. Like, why is it? And I know we talk about the women empowerment side of it, but like this song debuted at #1 on US Spotify, #6 on global Spotify, with 2.34 million and 3.75 million streams respectively for the song and video. It debuted #1 on Apple Music. The video itself racked up 26 million views in the first 24 hours, and making it the biggest debut for an all-female collaboration, because this is a collab between Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B. And anyone on Twitter or TikTok knows the song. It was huge. So why is it so successful? Like, here's my thing with this song. I watched the video with Russell Brand actually reviewing this song. Did anyone else see this?
No.
So it's really interesting. He kind of talks about how there's nothing wrong with women celebrating their sexuality and their desire.
No.
I think people criticize hip hop music and rap music no matter what they say in the song. It's like the cool thing to like talk about. But I guess my thing, and Brand talks about this, and I don't know if I agree with him or not, but I wanted to put this to you guys. He says that Russell Brand said, should women just get away with saying, oh, men do it, so we're gonna do it? Like, why try to subscribe to the systems that men have put in place to rap about being a chauvinistic, sex obsessed weirdo?
Yeah.
Do women achieve equality by copying the same values established by men?
Well, I mean, it's a fundamental concept that two wrongs don't make a right. So in that sense, I would say no. Like if we're attempting to actually change the narrative,
I don't know. I
Yeah.
just feel like I can't read deep into this song because it's like it's like I think
I'm
it was
trying to like
honestly
go
like
deep.
it's like if we wrote like a silly song and then somebody like just like tried to like ascribe all this meaning to it and be like, no, dude, we were talking about actually farting and pissing, and
yeah,
like
I get behind that, but I mean the conversation is still like pretty prevalent out there just in terms of like equality and stuff. So since Terrell brought it up, I wanted to actually attempt to just like weigh in, especially on that specific uh clip that you were talking about there from Russell Brand. I didn't get to see it, but when he asked that question, I say no. Like I'm all for equality too, and I think we should attempt to get there, but I don't think getting there can be done by writing, or at least saying, oh, men do it, so I should do it too, and certainly not by writing a shitty song like this.
I think my thing is like, is the goal to objectify yourself on your own terms, which I'm totally fine with. Like, I think that's really the idea here. Like Russell Brand talks about, like, is objectification of women something we should aspire to? Like, let's face it, it's women kind of like taking the power back in this song about like their sexuality, which is fine. But I just me personally, whenever a song is like like constantly like the whole song about sex and it's like really overt, um, it's a commodity, right? Like sexuality as a commodity is really lame to me. And like if you have to use sex to like incite like conversation and stuff, like that to me is, I just don't listen to music like this no matter what the genre
Yeah.
is. I don't care if a guy sings it. I don't care if a girl
Unless
sings
it's
it. I just
Marvin
really don't.
Gaye.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're like, that's not even nearly as like direct and filthy as
No,
this
no,
song.
I
And I actually, and I just want to say, I have absolutely no problem with this being like a ladies' anthem. I just, from brass tacks of a point of view, if you try to go deep into it, it kind of doesn't make sense to me. And if you go from Phil's point of view, where it's just kind of a silly song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a silly song. Okay, like, and here's the thing too. Like at multiple times in this song, like each like both of them will reference like basically like, yeah, now rich man buy me shit, and like I don't think that that's like a a women's rights or like some equality anthem there. Like I don't see it there in this song. Like I honestly don't, and so like I yeah, like it's just a silly song to me, and just again not a particularly good one. Like that use of that sample drives, like it just hurts my mind thinking about like why you would think that that was a good idea to do that over a rap song.
Yeah.
Have a completely different vocal line repeating over and over and over and over again in the background during the verses.
Yeah.
And like there's no parts to this song. There's no changes in parts. It's just literally they'll remove like there's some whores in this house part, and you're like, oh, thank goodness. Oh no, it's back again. And like,
Yeah.
oh, like it's just a
Yeah,
shitty song, man.
I
And like
agree.
Cardi B cannot fucking rap. And Megan Thee Stallion's got like some bars in it, but they're not that good. And like it's just a shit song. There's my sorry.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. Yeah, I don't.
Okay, let's talk about this though. I want to throw this out there as well, since
Sure.
I got some heaters on this topic. Have you heard about Ben Shapiro talking about this song?
I try not to listen to anything that guy says either. But
So he talked about how that it's like a bad song and they don't have morals and stuff. There's a lot of outrage, obviously. Despite the overwhelming success of the song, there is a lot of critique about it. My favorite thing is like, a guy like Ben Shapiro or like right wing people, they always like talk about cancel culture and how the left like wants to destroy their right to be shitty.
Mhm.
But I challenge the right wing to think about all the things that they've tried to cancel, like Marilyn Manson
Yeah.
or video games
or marijuana.
or like this or marijuana or this song. And I think Ben Shapiro is the most hilarious example because he talks about it. And then he tweeted that his doctor wife said that if you have a WAP, you should get that checked out by a doctor, implying that his wife doesn't know what a wet ass pussy is, and neither does he.
Oh, that poor lady.
And I think that's the thing I take away from this song, and I have to go back to what Phil says. People can hate me for my views on this song and like about how it objectifies women, and it's not really about equality and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, the song is silly. It's not like a serious song, and I can't take it seriously in any kind of like deep discussion around it. I just automatically go back to being like,
What?
that sounds like an ICP, like a Insane Clown Posse
Yeah,
song.
well, and like
Favorite girls.
one thing I neglected to mention in my little tangent that I went off on there is that like the morality of this song, like I don't give a shit about that at all. Like I am a firm believer in free speech, and you should be able to say whatever the fuck you want in your art. And like I might not like it, I might not agree with it, I might think it's really terrible. But like I'm not saying that that's what I think is terrible in this song. Like it's just the morals have no influence on my opinion of this song because it's just it's art, and people can say what they want to say. So I'm not saying that they're wrong for writing this song that's filthy. Fucking go for it. More power to you. Just next time, make it a better fucking song.
Right, like the aforementioned like Bloodhound Gang tune, which I could put on right now and actually listen to it and laugh because it's silly and it's intended to be silly, but it's still like a fun, well-written song, and it's got catchy hooks and stuff, and it's actually good. So yeah, let's call it a day with the old WAP boys and get down to our rankings. So I'm gonna go first. I don't have a lot to say. It's not for me. I'm giving it a 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I just don't like ever like any sort of like music that is obsessed with sexuality. Like, I think we should think about the fact that like no one actually cares about your sexuality, and we have this weird mainstream culture where like constantly talking about your sexuality, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't care what you do in the bedroom, and that's really perhaps where we should go back to, is where stuff like this
Yeah.
should be kind of like taboo. Like, I don't think you shouldn't do stuff for adults or whatever, but I just don't understand why this song became a big song,
Yeah.
because it is silly. And I don't really like it. And I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 just because I know that like women hear this and they feel like, finally, I got a song about sex. Good for you. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, as far as that, like it's not. This isn't some revolutionary thing. Like, like how long has Lil Kim been around? Like it's not. It's not some crazy new thing. And like what I see this as is like it's it's very good marketing, and it's just like it's yeah, like it's definitely like the like the record company or the marketing company being like, yo, let's release this really filthy track and like just like get all this hype going about it, and then they can put the least amount of effort into the song itself. Like it's just a lazy fucking song, and like they're those songs piss me off more than anything, when it's just a lazily written like good enough kind of song, and like yeah, it's just so low effort. I'm gonna give it a 1 out of 10. And actually, I was about to give out
Being
a
a
jerk
little
of the week
generous
but let me
there,
think
Phil.
about it.
Being a little generous.
I just hate lazy fucking songs.
I hear you. I hear you. So yeah, now with that done, we can actually move on. But first, if you are a company that would like to advertise with us, this is the spot where I would be serenading the masses with my velvety tones while making your company sound like the greatest company on the planet. So if you'd like to, contact us, thestonerspov@gmail.com, and let's set something up. We are going to take a brief little siesta here while we get our affairs in order, and we're going to come back and talk about the 1997 action flick Face Off after
Face off.
the jump. Welcome back to the second half of Stoner's Point of View. We're about to get into ye old Face Off, and I'm really excited for this one, guys. I gotta say off the hop though, this was one of those movies that when you're high and trying to take notes, it is a note taker's nightmare. I've never had
Yes.
my notes be so disorganized and chaotic after by trying to type Archer or type Caster or type Troy or Cage or Travolta. It just like trying to keep track of it all was a little nutso.
I wrote C as S and S as C.
I just
like
started
Sack
giving
and
them
Cass.
like hybrid names. Like I started calling him Troy Volta and Nick Sean, I think was the other one I called him. But anyway,
Archer.
we'll get to all that. The movie starts, and right off the bat, the music's pretty cool. This is John Woo's like arguably his most successful American film at the time. And I got that kind of epic feel like The Rock, the episode we did about The Rock, way back at episode 3. Go check it out. And I just kind of got that vibe, and I was like, okay, I think I'm in for a good time here. And
yeah, well, I think this was like one of the last of like those like that like 90s style action movie, because this was what, 2003, was it not?
97 actually.
Oh, 97. Yeah, okay, sorry. Wow, I was way off. But yeah, it's one of the last of those where it's just got that 90s vibe, like that. It's like you can't really describe what it is, but yeah, like The Rock.
I know how to describe it. I know how to describe it. It's when your movie wants to be a Michael Bay movie. That's the 90s. That's the 90s vibe.
That's fair. That's fair.
And my thing is with this movie is, how sometimes you watch a movie and when you were younger, we've talked about this a lot. It has a certain like, you have like a revisionist history. That's what happened to me. I really liked it when I was younger, when this came out like 24 years ago. So I was pretty young when it came out. And I remember watching it. I think we got it on tape. My mom used to work at a grocery store, so they rented videos. So when the store closed, we could take whatever video we wanted.
For sure.
Home. So your boy Terrell has watched like every movie that came out in the '90s the day like it hit the stores, and this was one of those for sure. I can say that I think this movie is not so good. Like the first scene looks like we could have filmed it. It looks like it's done on like an iPhone with like a sepia. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's and it's like the acting is so atrocious.
Well,
like John Travolta couldn't care less about that kid.
Yeah, I did think the way, like from a character perspective, the way it introduced them was kind of cool. But like touching on your point about the revisionist history and just like going way back, when we do this with these movies from the 90s and I haven't seen them in like over a decade and I'm high watching it, it's like I forget a lot of the subtle nuances, especially because I'm taking notes now, so I'm paying a lot more attention. And my stoned brain for some reason thought that this whole opening scene might have been a dream because of the sepia look and the way that it was shot, right? Like I was like, oh, maybe this is just a dream. And then when you see how like kind of gut-wrenching it is, the fact that Cage shoots Travolta in the shoulder and like the kid gets shot through him. I'm like thinking they wouldn't just let a kid die, right? Like this has to be a dream. And then all of a sudden, like I have in my notes, shit, it wasn't a dream. That's
yeah. One thing I will say about this scene is Cage is rocking a sick stash.
Yeah.
When he's looking down that sniper scope, it's like, is he going to snipe you or is he giving you a mustache ride?
Oh,
and that's the thing like, about this movie. When Nick Cage is playing Castor Troy, that is like the highlight of the film, and we only get so much of that before we see John Travolta trying to play Nick Cage as Castor.
I totally saw it the exact opposite. When Travolta was Castor Troy, I saw Travolta as Castor Troy. When Nick Cage was Sean Archer, I saw Nick Cage playing Sean Archer. And then when he was in the prison, he was also playing Castor Troy. So it was like a 3 levels of hell.
So let me ask you a question then.
Right.
Like, which actor, I wanted to ask this guys at the start, like, who played their character better? Like, do you feel John Travolta played Nick Cage better than Nick Cage played John Travolta?
I do.
So here's why. So John Travolta playing Nick Cage equals Ace Ventura. Like, go back and watch it again. Like the next 100 years. Like,
wow, looks like you're gonna be in here for the next 100 years.
He goes straight up Ace Ventura on your ass.
Yeah.
Like, and it's and I remember actually watching like a behind the scenes thing on like City TV when I was a kid when this movie was coming out, and like John Travolta was talking about how fun it is to act as Nick Cage. Like that'd be so much fun just to act as like Nick Cage for a day. Fuck yeah, I'd do it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so they haven't actually switched yet. We'll definitely get to that. But yeah, it was definitely a good way to.
It is called Face Off. Who hasn't seen this movie? Come on.
Well, that's a wrap, folks. No, I'm just kidding. So then 6 years later, we see that Sean Archer, Travolta's character, is just obsessed with Castor Troy, and like the storytelling is well intentioned. I'll say that. Like they have their signposts that they're trying to get to, and they're hitting them, but some of the ways they go about it is kind of hokey. Like they're trying to show like how decorated Archer is by like doing a nice pan shot of like the walls with all his awards on it, and it's like, okay, that's pretty standard character development there.
But then Nick Cage gets developed
right through it.
The best scene is when he gets out of his car and he gets like handed his stuff and like he's at the plane.
No. Even before then, when he's in the church. Outfit. When he's in the priest outfit, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to save the viewers the priest outfit.
No, because it's so creepy,
and it wastes zero time. Like again, like this movie, I will bitch about the length of it, but you know, at least it gives
it's too long.
It wastes no time getting like straight to like, oh yeah, this is a fucking Nick Cage joint. You know, like it just gets straight Cage right off the hop. Like he shoots a kid, and then he's dressed as a priest, grabbing ass. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
And that part is important because he arms the bomb in the LA Convention Center, which is kind of like the premise for the like initial parts of the movie. But yeah, the one thing before we actually get to the Nick Cage plane scene is that the other Travolta scene. What I noticed was like he's not trying to be funny in his scenes as Archer, but because he's so theatrical, like it just is funny. Like like I can't even explain it, man. He just
Travolta is a very dramatic. Yeah, he's a very dramatic actor. Like in that first scene when he's like stressing and everything, he's always like turning to the side really quickly and like he's always doing like really dramatic.
I love from a character standpoint, like he's got his wife on, or he's told that his wife's on hold, but then Buddy comes in and says they have like Castor's brother in custody, so he totally just like ditches his wife to go on this like insane quest to take out Castor Troy, which I guess is a fundamental concept in the movie, that he's just so obsessed with this guy. But yeah, now we get to the scene you're talking about, Terrell, where he gets on the plane.
I'm sorry for skipping ahead.
It's okay.
This scene is by far my favorite scene.
Yeah, well, he's so
of our development.
He's so weird, right? Like when he tells the woman who ends up being an FBI agent, but we don't know it at the time, like asks her if she wants to suck his tongue, and like just like,
yeah.
Well, he says if I told, or what does he say? If I were to let you suck my tongue, would you be grateful? Imagine pulling that line out on a nice gal.
Well, and then like and like, oh yeah, the girl's an informant, so you're like, oh, that's why that worked. But like, but Castor is going in, like he's going for the bone, like he's trying to bone this lady, this nice young woman, aboard a private jet, like right in front of his brother and henchman,
with no subtlety at all.
Yeah, like that's just he's a weird dude, strange guy.
So then we get
you gotta admit though, he builds his character with like how much of a villain he is. I just have to mention this.
Oh,
the reason why I love this scene is like the golden pistols, the drugs, the weed. He lights a joint because it's the stoner's point of view. We got to talk about the fact that as he's like talking to his brother, it's just like casually like getting just baked before his private flight, smoking on an airplane. Smoking weed on an airplane as well. Like it just establishes Nick Cage as like this crazy villain.
Yeah,
you know
like a
cartoonish
villain,
like a cartoon.
Oh, and that like that. There's again like another thing from the action movies of that era was like I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but it's just like the bad guys just like, I love being bad,
Yeah. So then we get that chase scene, an opening chase scene, nice and early in the movie. And one thing that I noted about kind of the level of action in the initial part to set up kind of the big twist where they switch spots is because they do it that way, they can actually have equal parts action both at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie, which you don't usually see in the action movies, right? They usually have this smaller fight scene at the start and then like a massive one at the end. But I found that because they could switch it up, like both of them were pretty intense. Like this chase scene was nuts.
Yeah,
I have this listed as the first helicopter.
Well, that's what gets.
There's another.
What gets me about this scene is like your boy Archer is a multi-talented son of a bitch. Like he can, he gets in it. He's driving like a crazy man. He like fucking drifts in a Hummer. Without rolling it. I don't know how possible that is, but anyways.
Not possible.
And then he's a fucking marksman just capping people. Then he gets into a helicopter and just flies it himself.
Yeah.
And is at one point strafing like sideways along with the plane that's taking off while shooting at its engine accurately so he's like one hand driving a helicopter doing a difficult maneuver, other hand pinpoint accuracy shooting out a jet engine.
Another thing I don't think could really happen. Like I don't think you could really shoot out a plane engine with like 2 bullets.
Well, and no, beyond that, if a plane is going fast enough that you're almost about to take off, you can't like hang out the door shooting at a helicopter. Like it would be too much force. It would pull you out of the plane. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's a.
And I want some realism in my action films. Damn it! No, but
I just love the absurdity of of these.
It's like a comic book.
Yeah.
This movie. What I found when I rewatched it, I was like, people hate on comic book movies nowadays. Like Phil, you're a Marvel hater.
I'm not a Marvel hater. I'm just so sick of that genre of movie. Like it's just been.
But are you
done to death?
Like this is like a comic book movie though. Like if you think about it, like are you? We've been watching movies that are completely ridiculous action movies for like how long? Forever.
Yeah, but this is a new IP though. That's the thing.
Well, and what's
it's
I can get that. I can get what you're saying,
What-
but it's still corny and comic book.
for sure. And one thing that I found funny about this movie is I don't see either of these actors as like primary action guys. I see them as the guys who play alongside the action guys.
yeah.
In an
Well,
action
originally,
movie.
they wanted Stallone and Schwarzenegger for this movie originally, and I think it's a better movie for having Travolta and Cage personally. Like if it was like this is like it's a fun movie. I don't know if it's necessarily a good movie,
Right.
but it wouldn't have been nearly as fun without
Okay.
Travolta and Cage.
Hear me out now, though. Face Off 2, Schwarzenegger and Stallone. They're old. They're like cops or something, chasing each other their whole career. Stallone's like the bad guy. Obviously, Schwarzenegger's the cop. We get to see the Schwarzenegger being like, "Yeah, sure, cut off my face." Like, you know what I mean?
Drop it.
The
Come on.
best would be to see Sly Stallone trying to do a Schwarzenegger. Oh man!
Or Schwarzenegger
Exactly.
trying to have an American accent with none.
Exactly.
Yeah,
with
Sly
no
Stallone.
accent.
Hey yo! Yeah.
Exactly. It'd be the funniest movie. It would take this franchise to new heights. It would.
Okay, yeah. You know
Call
what,
us.
Terrell? I
Call us,
retract
movie
my
studio.
statement. I retract
Call
my
me.
statement.
Yeah.
Call me. I'll write the script. 2 million. I'll write it.
So Archer's life at home isn't so great, but now that he thinks that he's got Troy after the big crazy action shootout, he swears it'll be better. And then it turns out they kept Castor Troy on ice because he wasn't dead. And Travolta gets pitched an idea to switch faces. And right off the hop, we get a very common storytelling kind of beat, which is the refusal of action. And no shit, he refused the action. Like, no, I'm not going to put this guy who killed my kid's face on my face.
Yeah.
But
It's
he eventually ends up being talked into
my
it.
favorite thing. My favorite thing I was gonna say is how it changes if you watch the movie. They're like, there's his like friend explaining to me. He's like, there is one other possibility, and then it just cuts to the doctor being like, we're gonna cut off your face, like. And it's just like, and he gives all this jargon, and like, my favorite thing is my note is like, why does it look like they're playing Road Rash from on the Sega when they're putting in their information? Because like the graphics don't look like it could cut people's faces off.
No.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like another classic trope of movies from these eras. It's like, oh yeah, well this is extra. We use computers for this, like everything's like super high tech, but it's like it's being shot and designed by people or filmed by people who have no fucking idea how computers actually work or what a graphical user interface looks like.
And what I love about it too is like we see Travolta. He takes like 2 seconds to be like, "Okay, I'll do it. It's crazy, but I'll do it." Like he like.
Well, but
Phil, if I ask
he
you,
actually takes a little bit and tries to do it his way. Like he interviews Sasha, who will be important later. He loses it on Dietrich, the bald dude, who. After he like sticks a gun in his eye,
he guilts everyone. Yeah,
yeah. He eventually tells him the bomb goes off on the 18th. So now we have a clock, which ends up being irrelevant, which kind of ticked me off as like a very kind of story meta watcher. They introduced this clock saying the bomb goes off on the 18th to create suspense, and then just didn't use that at all, and that kind of was a bummer. But anyways, yes, he's finally resigned to the situation. He goes and tells his wife there's one last job he's got to do. And I just want to say, like, I know it's thematic for the movie and everything, but like Travolta and his wife and his whole family for that matter have this like face touching thing they do.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
It's like super gross to me. And like, I don't know if that's just always been gross or if like the pandemic has warped my perspective, but
like, what is the purpose of that? Like,
Yeah.
your kid's gonna be in a coma and you're gonna wake him up with your creepy.
You know what? Actually,
I just don't get it.
I just thought of this. I'm gonna start doing this to my wife. Brett, I challenge you for the next week until the next episode. See how it goes. And listeners at home, you can play along. Do the creepy face rub thing to your partners. Like in loving, tender moments, and just see how it goes, and let us know what happens.
Yeah. So yeah, we get the face swap. It's a black bag mission, which is a really dumb move. To keep it under wraps and not tell anyone, even his boss. And now their roles officially switch sides. And this is where I actually noted the thing that I said at the start, where I said the movie is a note taker's nightmare, because now I got to keep track. But
side note, I just wanted to bring this up. My note says, like, okay, I'm high, but why would they cut their hair when they have open wounds, aka their whole open face? Why would you? That would be for sure become infected. And my high mind being like, that doesn't look very safe.
Well, and it would always be
like, you know
itchy under the skin, right? Like,
well, like if you got a little hair in your open face wound, like it would be like cause an infection and you would die. Like that's the other thing about this movie. If you know anything about science, there is no way for you just to cut someone's face off and like slap it back in and it looks like the exact same fucking person.
Yeah.
Like it's just that's not.
Well, they like have like the prosthetic thing that goes under, but it's still bullshit.
Yeah. And then they have like what the Bacta tanks from Star Wars to heal it perfectly
right?
like, in a week.
Like no, I'm sure the firefighter who got his face burnt off in a fire is really happy that you're using this technology this way. Face Off universe.
Yeah. Well, and another hokey part of this whole thing is where Archer does the voice testing, and like they just like introduce this way to magically explain the voice change, and like the justification plot devices were kind of weak, but the
yeah, like it's ridiculous.
The actual protest of seeing the pitch change and stuff was somewhat interesting, I guess, but like I'm grasping at straws for that.
You know what I just realized? Is that this movie is yet another movie whose plot could just be entirely solved by cell phones. Like they could have just given his brother in prison a cell phone, right? And then got like Travolta to use like a face swap app and be like, "Hey, it's me, your brother. What's that password? Where'd we put that bomb again?" Movie over.
Yeah. So then Miller, the main cop that knows about the mission, is going to get Archer out of jail in 2 days, no matter what. He's only in for 2 days and then he's coming out. And so then they lock him up. And the one thing that I did think was kind of cool was the concept with the steel magnet boots. I kind of like that. It actually gave me an idea for a story, and so it's pretty sweet. But then we get the real Troy, who's still caged without a face, waking up. And we get, I got Joker vibes, like from like the original Batman.
It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's pretty good, that scene when he does the talking and like he sounds like.
Yeah,
I feel like Nick Cage really looked into how difficult it would be. Like, truthfully, you couldn't talk without a face,
right?
Like without lips.
Yeah, but you know what? Nick Cage can act without a face.
Exactly. And Nick Cage does like a really. I feel like Nick Cage should be in a big like film as a villain. I feel like that's like a wasted potential there.
I heard somewhere, I can't remember, don't quote me on this, but I heard he's working on like a pretty major project like right now, or at least in the very near future. So I hope to see him in an actual big budget good movie again.
And this is why you want to see Nick Cage in a movie. Here's a quote from the film when he has no face. He brings the doctor in, he's just watching some surgeries. He's like, "Hey doc, I'm just enjoying some of your greatest hits here. Hope you don't mind. I took some of your groovy painkillers. This is great work. Bravo. Fucking oh."
Yeah.
And he's like, and the doctor's like, "What do you want?" And he's like, "Take one good goddamn guess."
Well, and that
like,
shot is sweet. Like for all we rip on like the filmmaking, the cinematography and stuff, that shot in the glasses with the half melted face or whatever was like.
That was the best scene in the whole movie, in my opinion. I feel like it once again cemented this Castor Troy guy as like this like unbelievable villain.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, by the way, for our younger listeners out there, when we're saying we're getting Joker vibes from this scene, we're referring to the original Batman movie with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Yes.
Yeah, the Batman.
Yeah. So then he takes Archer's face, and now I start calling him in my notes Troy Volta. But and actually, this is to contest what we were talking about earlier. I have in my notes that I thought he was actually quite a bit cooler than Cage's version of Castor Troy. That doesn't mean he did it better. That doesn't mean it was a more charming character. I just thought he was cooler at it. But then we have Nick Cage's acting job of Nick Cage doing Sean Archer doing Castor Troy. Which I love too. And there's the wild scene in the prison where the fight breaks out and stuff, and he's just like, "I'm Castor Troy. I'm Castor Troy."
Yeah.
The-
It's just I find it's like it's so like them look just like kind of like stumbling through those first days of life as the opposite character. Like
Yeah.
it's just so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
But you gotta love this movie.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah,
he's like,
'cause,
"Oh, Janie," and he looks at her pillow and says, Jamie." Like,
Yeah, right.
thank God for that pillow.
Yeah.
Like, no way you're gonna plan for that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So Travolta kills everyone involved. Now the real Archer has no proof of who he is. He's stuck having to infiltrate Troy's world somehow to get back to it. And we get our MacGuffin here, which ends up being the blood type, because that never changes and ends up proving pretty significant later on. But yeah, speaking of what you were saying there, Phil, those early days, like Travolta goes back to the house. He even like had to get his wife's diary to kind of like,
He's reading it. Yeah, just be like, I wonder about my life.
Yeah.
Turns out he's a much better husband than the real Archer.
Yeah, well, and a better father. Like he's trying to
Yeah.
ingratiate himself. He gives her a butterfly knife, which also comes in to play later on, and like teaches her how to use it and doesn't rat on her for smoking. Like he was a cool dad. And
Think about my favorite scene about this is when he comes into the town. I want to actually do a pop quiz time. What was the song that was playing when John Travolta playing Sean Archer, but is Castor Troy driving to his new home for the first time? Does anyone know the name of the song and the artist?
nope.
I'm gonna count down to 5.
Oh no, I'm thinking Papa's got a brand new bag, but that
That
wasn't
was
it.
what I thought too. But that's later.
He actually is driving, and he's like, "God, look at this place. I'm in hell." As he drives into their shitty little suburb,
Yeah.
he's like, "I may never get a hard on again."
Okay.
While listening to is "What You Need" by In Excess.
Okay.
So if you're a listener out there and you knew that song, you knew something that Phil and Brett didn't.
There you go. Congrats.
He hates the song, by the way. It's a really corny, like 80s rock song, which I love, but
Yeah.
he hates it.
So then we have like a Cage Archer having a pretty tough time in jail. He tries to tell the warden who he is and warn them about the bomb after he gets the info from Pollux, but like it's just all like fucking all coming up snake eyes for this guy. No pun intended, because Nick Cage was in a movie called Snake. Yeah. Anyways,
Oh,
TV in the jail reveals the situation, and it's even worse. He's just hopeless, bottom of the barrel now. And then so he's got to do a jailbreak, and so he ends up recruiting the guy who he got in a fight with when he first got in the jail. Because in the criminal underworld, apparently you earn respect by beating the shit out of people.
Dubov.
Yeah, Dubov. Yeah,
Is his
exactly.
name.
well, and he was also mad because real Castor Troy had a sexual encounter with his wife and sister. Was it?
I think he
believe.
called it a sex sandwich.
A sex
with his wife and
sandwich,
sister.
yes.
Yeah.
This movie is full of like really, just so you know, of listeners, full of cringy one-liners, like just constantly. The whole movie
Yeah.
is just full of them. I tried to mention as many as I can for comedy purposes, but they are highly offensive.
Yeah,
Is what I'm-
for sure. Yeah, so the whole jailbreak scene is actually like fairly long and kind of convoluted and crazy. Like when he's asking for a cigarette from the warden, and as he's being taken away, he's asking if anyone's got a match, and then when he gets Dubov to help him, like or throwing the jug of sulfuric acid and then like shooting it and making it explode, and
Well, he learns that the only way that they can get the boots off is that going back to the magnetic boot thing, and the whole
Right,
point of it
yeah.
is that they only take it off if they're going to fry your brain, like basically give you a lobotomy.
yeah, the shock treatment. Yeah,
Which I love. Like, I love this whole premise of this prison. Like, your Geneva Accord rights, you don't have any human rights here. And if you steal a cigarette, guess what? We're going to scramble your brain.
well, and let's talk for a second about the prison, which is nowhere spelled backwards. Like, well done, folks.
I didn't even pick up on that. Fuck, I'm stupid.
But yeah, there's a few improbable things, and then
Well, he like doesn't get shot at all, even though he gets shot at like 100
well, and
times.
Dubov gets shot a bunch.
But he like
he was
Nick Cage,
he was right beside him, though. That's what I mean.
Nick Cage, playing Sean Archer as Castor Troy, he somehow escapes, and he comes out, and they're actually on an oil rig, and we get helicopter scene 2 is what I call this scene.
Yeah, and eventually he lands in the ocean, and he's presumed dead. So now that like he's out, now the guys are back to being nemesis nemesis. Anyways, they're just on the other side of things, which is, I did find it kind of cool because I was stoned, and like just the idea, trying to really wrap my head around it, was just, I don't know, it was tickling my little stoner fancy a little bit. But then yeah, Troy Volta finds out that Nick Cage playing Sean Archer playing Castor Troy had escaped. And the body was not recovered. So of course he knows right off the bat. He's like, this guy's not done. He declares a big manhunt. And like at this point, like Archer has no choice but to go to Dietrich's, like fully play up the Castor Troy thing. And when he gets to Dietrich's, they're all stoked to see him. They load him up with his golden pistols and his zipper.
My note here is, he's like, escapes jail, goes to chill with his drunk, druggy criminal friends. Good idea.
Yeah.
Can't find me there.
Well, and because Troy's like such a legend among them, like you can, like, it's all Archer can do is kind of use the status to try and take him down.
But like, it's so stupid though. Like, if you're like this super villain, like, and you're also like, you're not even the super villain, you have a super villain chasing you.
Yeah.
Your first idea is to go, hey, you know what? I had a tough time playing a different person in prison. Why don't I go play that person with his very dangerous drugged out associates?
Yeah.
That sounds like a good way to get help.
Yeah.
Time to go hang out with his best friends.
Yeah.
And like, and also I think too, like, if I was Castor Troy as Sean Archer, obviously he's gonna know that's gonna be the first place to check.
Well,
you know what I mean? It just.
I think you know that kind of plays into it in a little bit too, because I want to talk about this before we move on to the next part, but this is where we get that scene you were talking about, where it's the weird mirror scene with Archer.
Oh yes,
with Archer playing Castor Troy, and he's just like looking at him. Like,
no, that's a classic, what we call a Nick Cage face.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the Cage. Like there's the Meshuggah face and there's the Cage face.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So and Sasha walks in while he's doing it, and he doesn't take the expression off his face at all, and turns to her, which is like,
that's how Nick Cage gets the ladies, man. That's made him millions of dollars, dude. He pulls that face out, and the women go crazy.
That's the Nick Cage equivalent of an O face.
Yeah.
So then we get Troy Volta talking to Troy's brother Pollux, outlines the plan. He's going to take down their criminal enemies and then switch back because he's getting a little tired of being Sean Archer. And here's a note that I posted. When he's at home and Jamie comes home with her boyfriend, I noticed that it's Hyde from That 70s Show, and he plays a douchebag sex offender, which is totally weird, right?
Yeah, weird. That's
what good casting.
Or maybe he's just method acting.
Yeah.
But anyways, he gets.
No, well, I love how he's there. He's so like, yeah, you know what? We're just gonna switch faces back, considering we killed the doctor who invented this shit like recently. And his team of people in their lab. Yep. Which is like the only facility on Earth with people trained to do this. We just fucking burnt the shit out of that, and now we're just gonna, you know what? We're just gonna switch it back. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's you're counting your chickens before they hatch.
Yeah. So, I don't think he really thought that through, but the movie too at this point also kind of,
it's not a well thought out movie.
Well, it kind of starts to blur the lines, right? Because like Troy Volta is starting to bond with Archer's daughter and stuff like that, and then we go back to Cage playing Archer, and he's bonding with Sasha. Finds out that her kid is Troy's, and then we get some empathy for Castor Troy, and it's just like, now I'm in the muck. Like, I'm firmly in the muck of like, what's going on?
What's
doing
going to
here?
happen in this movie? Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. You know what? We have to admit this. Let's take a break. You know, I gotta say, we gotta take a break and talk about. You know, we watch a lot of movies now.
Yeah.
We're officially film critics.
Yeah.
And you watch 5 or 6 movies, you learn how a film.
You're a film critic.
Wow. Yeah. You
wow,
watch
that
5 or
was
6
hard.
movies, you become a film critic, and suddenly you watch a movie like Face Off, and you start to question things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is one of those movies that, like, if you're trying to like critique it from like a film point of view,
well,
it has a lot of problems.
Part of it for me was also that like I had watched this movie fairly recently during Cage Rage month.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I like neither myself nor my wife were like, it's not, we weren't exactly excited to be watching this one again because, like, yes, it's hilarious and it's like a classic, but it's yeah, there's some muck to get through for sure.
Well, and
it's too long.
From my perspective, like what it looks like they did is they had like 2 or 3 critical story things that they had in mind. One of which is the overall premise of switching faces. It's like, what if we got guys that switch faces? And then they tried to make them.
Hold on. Before you talk about the 3 things, they also must have done some cocaine first.
Possibly, yeah.
Because like this is one of those movies that just screams to me. Like producers were like, "Hey, get out the Mad Lib on how to make a movie.
Yeah.
Okay, pick 2 stars. John Travolta and Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Okay, pick a crazy event that would happen to the
No,
stars.
sorry, Terrell. It was pick 2 stars. Okay, Stallone and Schwarzenegger. Oh, they're busy. Pick 2 other stars.
Yeah.
Travolta and Cage.
You know what I mean? It just screams that like producer. You know, we talked about this before with movies that like Romero. He was one of the first like directors that was like allowed to direct movies and he had control. This is very much like a producer led kind of movie.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like not. It's not an artistic.
Yeah, like what would the kids think is hip these days?
Yeah,
you know?
it totally felt like 2 guys sat around and like initially they were just like, man, what if we switched faces? You know, like they were all high, and then like they took this idea and were like, okay, let's make a movie about this, because definitely some of like the story points, it looked like they were reading from like a classic like archetype of how to write a story or how to frame a story, because like, some of the plot devices were so forced and hokey that
well, they were probably just doing rails and drinking beers and coming up with this, and I think that ended up being that I want to take his face off. Face off. Like that was probably their stupid joke they came up with that night. And they made a fucking movie around it. Ugh.
Anyways, we'll get through this, folks. So turns out Pollux was spying on Nick Cage playing Sean Archer playing Castor Troy, and basically tips off Travolta, who raids Dietrich's place, and in a nice classic pet the dog or save the cat moment, however you want to trope that one, he gives the kid the headphones with Somewhere Over the Rainbow to protect him, I guess, from the crazy gunshots.
The huge gunfight with people dying left and right.
Yeah.
It's gonna now he's gonna hear that song in the mall and have like convulsions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's gonna.
Yeah, and I don't think they had noise canceling headphones back then.
In '97, no.
I'm pretty sure that kid couldn't hear shit of that song.
Well, and the one thing I will say here, and maybe this is like a credit to the muck that I found myself in as a viewer, but the role reversal was kind of weird because like I'm finding myself aligning with like fake Troy and his band of thugs and like the FBI, who's actually the good guys raiding a bunch of awful criminals. I'm like, man, screw you guys. Like, anyway.
Yeah, well, that is one of the things that this movie actually does well, and it's exemplified in this scene. But yeah, you kind of develop a bit of an understanding of both sides, and like, yeah, like they definitely like there's more to these characters than just good or evil, aside from Castor Troy, who's just a fucking prick. Well, you know what, Castor Troy, sorry, evil. You, sir, are a jerk. You're the Phil Froese jerk of the week.
Phil Froese jerk of the week.
But even then, like Troy Volta has a little bit of redemption when he's like bonding with Eve. Well, maybe not Eve. Yeah. But when he like bonds with the daughter and stuff, and like he's being a way better husband and stuff.
Well, why is that? It's a guy like Castor Troy could never have a normal father-daughter relationship.
Right.
Well, even when he sees her, he's like, "Ooh, the plot thickens."
Yeah. And I think at first because he's creepy, but then I think what we are supposed to do as viewers, and I think what's logical is what happens is he sees this. This is actually one of the most logical parts of the movie, is that he sees that the daughter actually perhaps like is like a way to kind of redeem himself for how insane he normally is, right? So
yeah. And then we have this cool part where during this shootout that I had to notice because my stone brain thought it was kind of cool, where Archer notices that his friend's coming, but Dietrich's also coming in. So he like, to keep up the ruse, like pistol whips Dietrich, like, and when he falls to the ground, he just like shoots the ground beside him to make it seem like he just killed his buddy. And I thought that was cool when I was all baked and watching this bad boy. And then we get kind of it whittled down to just Archer and Troy again. and they're talking about, you know, one of you. I'm pretty sure this is like kind of a rehash of like their initial scene when Troy's trying to like lure him into, or he's like, "Come be a criminal. It's way better on this side of the fence," and that kind of thing. And then in this scene, is like basically like, "Okay, Plan B, we kill each other." And then there's like the shootout with the mirror, which I think is the scene that's behind Phil right now.
Yeah, well, and that's such a classic John Woo trope. Like, there's fucking doves everywhere in this movie. Like, they are just holy shit. Apparently, all the doves live in this movie. But and yeah, the mirror, the back to back on either side of the wall, classic John Woo trope. It's just like that's one thing we haven't really touched on is like this movie, like. It looks like every John Woo movie ever made, but this one is 2 hours and 18 minutes of John Woo trying to, like, you know, you've got John Travolta trying to be Nick Cage trying to be John Travolta, and John Woo trying to be John motherfucking Woo in this.
Or trying to be Michael Bay is what I was
yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, and like that's the thing that kind of like has some charm to this movie, but I also just get like lost in the like the whole like when the hero villain have their Western style standoff. Like it's so unrealistic. Like just shoot each other. Come on.
Yeah, for sure. Like they get monologuing at each other and stuff. But then Archer, the Nick Cage Archer, throws Pollux through a skylight, and then we get some emotion from Travolta, who's like breaking down about it. And then a kind of cool like little office scene where Travolta kills his boss Lazaro, who's starting to like question things and like starting to be
He's
like,
maybe I should have put this guy in charge of global terror.
Yeah, your war on crime's getting crazy. Washington's asking questions. And then he has like a little angina attack, and Travolta just capitalizes on it by like punching him and then elbowing him in the chest
to make his heart attack worse.
While this is going on, Cage Archer is like explaining the situation to Eve. He shows up at her house, and like kudos to Joan Allen, the actress who plays Eve, because she acts her ass off in that scene. Like imagine knowing that this killer killed your kid, and then he shows up, and he doesn't only show up at your house scaring the shit out of you, but he's trying to convince you that he's actually your husband. And
he does.
Well, not yet. But side note about her, like she's actually a really great actress, and I don't know if you knew this, Phil, but she actually was the voice of Delphine from Skyrim. Which
really,
yes,
I did not know that.
Yeah, so that's a pretty prominent character. If you're a nerd and played Skyrim, all three of us played it many hours. And,
yes.
Yeah.
How many characters do you think you have? No, I don't even know. Like, there's just so many.
I have lost count, man. But yeah, so then we get like after Cage Archer leaves, like we get a scene with her and Travolta where he's suspicious of her, but because of the tip off about the blood, because as we said, that was the MacGuffin, was the blood type wouldn't have changed. So that was one thing that Cage Archer had told her was Castor's blood type's AB, I'm O negative or whatever. And so she takes some of okay. So why didn't she just take some of his blood then?
Yeah, exactly.
And go test it to make sure it was O negative.
Seems less risky. Also, like what I hate about this movie,
think of that.
I have a note in here about how awful all the dramatic string music is in this movie. You know the part where she actually goes to the hospital to get the blood type.
Right.
We get this like real dramatic string music. In my stone mind, soundtracks actually matter. Turns out
very
in
much.
Films. And this one just has the worst like music background. If it's not guns going off, it's like really bad, like dramatic, annoying strings. So
I also too, like, I don't think like just being being a doctor or whatever, like I don't think you can just like slap some blood on a slide and be like, oh yeah, it is the wrong blood type.
Pretty sure it takes time to get those results, but hey, this was 1997 and computers, am I right?
Maybe we're just so Canadian we don't know that like you could go to a machine, because I bet you in the States you probably can just get blood.
Well, like, don't worry, this only costs you $250,000.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So conveniently, right after she verifies the blood type, Cage Archer visits her again at the hospital, and now she doesn't know who to trust, even though like she has verifiable proof. And it's not until he tells the story of their first kiss, and now she finally believes him. Like, and this is where I was kind of talking about like these plot devices just being so forced and hokey. Like,
Yeah. The acting is just so like it's cringeworthy in this scene, especially like where you're just like you don't buy it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you don't buy it.
Yeah.
Like she's like, you're Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Like that's what she's thinking.
Yeah. Well, and you have to imagine like people in movies with Nick Cage probably do that a lot because
Yeah.
he's himself every movie. And like I remember when we did The Rock and we said like this was Nick Cage playing Nick Cage and Sean Connery playing Sean Connery, and it was a great thing. It lent itself
Yeah.
very happily to the movie, and I feel like it's the same with this movie
Yeah.
in terms of Cage. But yes, you got to imagine being an actor on set with him, knowing, oh, this is just him like dialed up to 11.
Oh, right before we started recording this today, I was watching like some behind the scenes footage of them filming the scene where the two of them meet for the first time in the prison, and it's fucking awkward to see like Travolta and Cage like just bouncing off of each other like that in a silent room. That sounded like a porn when I just described that, but yeah. It was really awkward to watch.
Yeah. Speaking of that, Travolta, he comes to the hospital then because now he's all suspicious that Eve's gone in the middle of the night, and he finds nothing. She's already shooed off her real husband, and we get this line where he's like, "Lies, deceit, mixed messages. This has turned into a real marriage." Like,
You know what? I wish when this scene happened though, like I actually preferred. I was hoping when I first watched this movie that we'd get like a full on like another gun scene like in the hospital with like his wife being like, oh no,
yeah.
and like you know what I mean, like, and then we don't, and I was really kind of like expecting that, and I felt a little let down that we didn't get like a murderous like hospital.
But we did get the
scene.
murderous final showdown at a funeral, which is
also dope,
kind of
yeah.
cool. Yeah, so that's happening. The family's kind of held hostage by Travolta, and like they have the big shootout. And I know I'm skipping over a lot of stuff here, but like just go watch the movie, people. Like,
it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. it really doesn't. It really doesn't. But the one thing that does matter in this scene is Sasha actually dies in the shootout and tells Cage Archer not to let Adam grow up to be a criminal like them. And that'll play a little part a little later. But
well, and what's really cool is how Sasha dies. Actually, they actually have like a, you know, talking about John Woo, like film tropes. They have a Mexican standoff,
yeah,
which is kind of sounds racist in a way, but it's basically where you like are all circled each other with guns.
A whole bunch of people. Yeah,
it's a stupid movie thing that like never happens in real life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's ever happened in real life. And all I have is like, cool, they get in a big Mexican standoff. Sasha gets wasted finally.
I don't think Mexican standoff sounds racist, Terrell. I think there's actually an old comedy bit about this where just putting Mexican in front of stuff makes it sound racist. Like, oh, do you want to get on this Mexican Ferris wheel? You know?
I think you could do that with like anything. It's like, hey, you guys want to get on the white bus? You know what I mean? Like, it just sounds fucked up when you do that.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, I get what you're saying. You can't just like put a racial thing in front of something, and it's suddenly it just, as a white person, you have to be very careful, right? Like, you don't want to say the wrong thing.
I hear you.
Is it okay if I order some Swedish meatballs?
Yeah, like, hey guys, we're gonna make some M-word rice, Mexican rice. Okay, anyway, sorry.
We get a bit of the climax in the shootout scene there with Jamie, and this is where the butterfly knife comes back because Travolta's trying to like hold her hostage, and she uses the butterfly knife that he gave her and showed her how to use to like get him in the leg. And there's a little bit of like kind of forced continuity here when she shoots Cage Archer, but we'll get to that. Like that's I'm not sorry.
Go on.
I was just gonna say it's another one of those things that was put there to explain something rather than just like explaining something well or naturally. They just like force something in there as an explanation.
This is we're talking about when the daughter stabs Travolta, right?
Right. Yes.
I noticed I don't know if you guys noticed, but I noticed a big mistake in that part.
What?
Well, or not maybe a big mistake, but I find that at a few points in the action scenes in this movie, this is one of those older films that really suffers from the conversion into like to move into HD, you know, and like 1080p and 4K. Like when you're getting up into those clearer resolutions, and you do a new transfer of an older film, such as was with Dawn of the Dead. Or Day of the Dead, sorry. You know, it upscales, but it wasn't meant to be seen on that type of television. And you'll notice a lot of that in this movie, where it's just like scenes, like it looks like shit because you can actually see what's actually going on. And at that
I just thought that was the movie.
When his daughter stabs Travolta in the leg, Nick Cage points what's clearly a pistol and fires off like a fucking MP5, just like. Like it's such a weird editing thing, and you can see they tried to edit around it. I think actually it makes sense. I think later, because one of them ends up having one, and maybe it was just like an editing thing to like kind of not break the continuity so much. But it's like I think it's probably I would chalk it up to like being able to see it a lot more easily now in the world of high definition.
For sure.
Well, also too, like if you got stabbed in the thigh like that with like a 5-inch like blade, you're not just gonna like run and have a boat chase 5 inches later. Like,
and find two identical power boats. And like,
it's
that marina. Like, I mean, we did a movie. I can't even remember the movie now. We did a movie with a marina chase scene already, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. But it's such like a classic end of the line sort of action film thing, and I actually. Even though I didn't like the usage of it as a scene, I thought the boat action and the explosions were kind of cool. You know, you can tell they saved their big stunts for this scene.
I mean, like, it's explosions. You know what I mean? It's like pizza. Everyone likes pizza. Everyone likes explosions. You know what I mean?
Well, at this point, I think it's like explosion porn, really. Like, it's like, you know, it's like, oh, like, let's do it at a pizza place or whatever. It's just like, let's blow up on the water. Like, I don't know. It's just like, it reminded me of when we watched The Rock, and like Nick Cage, just like Sean Connery happens to find a Hummer, and Nick Cage happens to find a yellow goddamn Ferrari, and in this one they happen to find like easily recognizable, highly contrasting colored variants of the same exact powerboat, and fucking keys in the ignition, like let's rock, boys. Like it's just so ridiculous and over the top that you have to love it.
I was gonna say my favorite part is when they actually crash. Like they go up like 20 feet in the air and then just like casually continue their melee on the beach.
That is that scene specifically is like, it's so obvious that it's stuntmen on a green screen. Like if you go back and watch that, you're like, wait a minute, did they just switch faces with two other people?
I guess they could get away with that in this movie.
Then we get the last scene of the fight with the harpoon and Travolta gouging his face up, saying every time you look in the mirror, you're gonna see my face, and then he gouges his face up, and then he gets shot with the harpoon. And then we get the last little bit of story with the faces being swapped back, and like when he's gonna do it, he wants the bullet hole removed as well because he doesn't need it anymore. And we never really find out like how Wanda and the other FBI agents like verified it. Like, yes, Eve told them what was up, but they're just supposed to take her at her word. Like, the concept is so ridiculous. I don't think there's any chance that any police entity in the world would go on a hunch, even if the guy's wife is swearing it's true. Like, I don't think.
Yeah, they don't really explain how they confirm. Like, I feel like they would like do blood tests, because I feel like if you're an FBI agent, they probably have your blood and stuff like that. And like, but yeah, this movie has a very loosey-goosey kind of way of telling stories. My favorite thing about this movie is like when I watch it and I finish it, my like favorite part about it is how I thought that the movie would have been better if he actually did like really cut his face up at the end, like really fuck it up so like he can't get a new face. And then the movie ends with Nick Cage just being John Travolta with his new family. I feel like that would really like cemented the movie as a more like a real sacrifice. But you know, we end up getting John Travolta and his stupid
there's
big chin.
I feel like this movie would be better if it like would have ended with like John Travolta and his wife back together at last and like hugging, and John Travolta just looks at his wife and is like, "We switched wieners too."
I don't know about that. But I I want to talk about this scene for a sec because we got Travolta back as Archer, like we said, and Jamie now apologizes for shooting him during the butterfly knife scene that I was talking about before. But it's a good thing she did because apparently that's what dislodged the voice modification chip and gave him his normal original voice back. How
What a
convenient!
coincidence! Yeah, what a coincidence! What a thing to happen amongst all the other
No
conveniences
kidding.
in this movie.
Well, and it's funny because like way back when he gets the voice modification chip, the guy's like, even a slight breeze or a small bump could dislodge it. And it's like, okay, so it's not all the action we've had thus far. It's my daughter shooting me. But you know,
And you know what? You know what the thing about this movie I wanted to put to you guys, like we've done a lot of different types of films. One of the things that I'm really starting to notice now, and I wanted to see if you guys notice this too. Sometimes when I watch movies like this, I actually find it's like quite painful. I find like sometimes like it's like cringeworthy how they take the next scene. But then you compare it to like a movie like, and this is what I want to talk about. Like compare it to a movie like The Shawshank Redemption or The Silence of the Lambs, where it's literally like a pleasure to watch it. Like you're like, oh, I couldn't believe that this next scene was so fluid and well shot. And,
Yeah.
and then it goes to show you, I feel like one of the things that in music, when we listen to music, every like kind of pop song is done to like a really high level of like production.
Mhm.
But and this has only happened in movies recently, but I feel like for a lot of the 90s, there was a period there where like movies were really, really badly done. Like, and this is one of those movies that was still like a big movie that was like, I feel really poorly like shot, like bad movie
bad
all around,
story, bad writing.
bad acting. Yeah, like but it's still it was a big movie. Somehow.
Yeah. But it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah,
That's
well-
one thing I feel like this is quite the romp. you
Well,
know?
and speaking of Silence of the Lambs, like there's kind of like a little bit of the same idea here at the very end, where he has the kid Adam keeping his promise to Sasha, and like basically like asks Eve if they can have him and if they can keep him, and Jamie's now his brother, going to show him his room and all that.
What
And I'm
the
just like,
fuck?
you get to live the rest of your life with Castor Troy's kid. Like,
Yeah.
no big deal. Just the guy who killed my kid's kid.
But not only that, just like show up, like, oh hey, look what I picked up on the way home.
Yeah.
Another mouth to feed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, turns out you're still a fucking terrible husband.
Well, I mean, I get I get the
Yeah,
catharsis.
it's not a puppy, Phil. Yeah, I say.
It was the catharsis aspect and stuff, and I guess I get that. But as a
It's supposed to
dad,
be like the full circle kind of idea.
as
that
a
they
dad,
have,
I try to
right?
put myself in that exact situation. Like, knock wood, like God forbid, but like if my kid was ever killed by someone, and I found out that they had a kid that was the same age as my kid, and then I had to have their kid living with me, like I don't know, man. I don't.
Yeah, that
Well,
kid's
And I
that
love
kid's
the
not
way
getting
like
dessert.
sorry, go on, Trell.
I was just gonna say that kid's not getting dessert after supper at Brett's house.
Well, I love the way they present it too. Like it's just so they're so clumsily done. Where it's just like, oh, it's like our son never died. You
Well,
know?
think about it this way too. Like, think about it from the kid's point of view. It's like, oh, so the guy that looked like my real dad was just on drugs and was tripping balls on how my real dad killed his kid, and now I'm gonna go live with him. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, and
that
he
makes
killed
sense.
my real dad.
And he killed my dad eventually. But I'm gonna turn out just fine, and I won't need any
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then the movie wraps, and one thing is like I was trying to like somewhat corroborate my notes while the credits were rolling, so I didn't stop it right away. And this really bouncy music comes on in the credits like a couple minutes in, and it felt oddly out of place. Nobody's going to get to that, so they're not going to know it. So that's why I wanted to throw it out there, because it was actually quite jarring. Like I was feeling like, I just watched this action movie, whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like, boop-a-doo-doo-doo, like this bouncy ass music. Anyways, it's done. That's Face Off. I will go first. It was fine. It was fun, and it was fine. I feel like storytelling was kind of forced and hokey. I feel like the writing was not great. I feel like they really hung their hat on the, oh, what if your face was my face, like concept, and like obviously the name of the movie and everything, but I feel like they had that idea, which I think is kind of a cool idea, but I feel like they just everything around it could have been done to a higher level. So I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think part of it was because I had just watched it too, and so watching it again like this soon, and you know, like you said, like everything that it does, it could have been done to a higher degree, or yeah, like it's just it's an interesting concept. It's fucking ridiculous, but I think like it's there's such a contrast there because like they try to deal with these very serious themes, but in the like they also try to straddle that line of like of self-awareness where like they know they're being ridiculous but also trying to deal with those serious themes, and I just don't think it's done very well. And you know, I said earlier, like they handle things very clumsily in the movie, and it's way too fucking long. The movie's 2 hours and 18 minutes long. This movie, were it not 90 minutes, would be a far better movie because it would have better pacing and just not so much bullshit that like it just needs to be condensed down. And so I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because it's not a bad movie. It's not a good movie. It has its moments. But the thing is that I remember those moments being much closer together, as in not spread out over 2 hours. So yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. It's too fucking long.
Yeah, you know, this movie has some stuff in common with WAP. If you try to look into it too hard, you're gonna realize there isn't a lot in this movie or the song. It's not meant to be like a deep song, and it's not meant to be a deep movie. I think they try like so hard to get like symbolism and dark humor, and you know, everything kind of wraps itself up. But it gets kind of lost in like the bad pacing, the weird action. The sad thing about this movie, really, I would say, is it actually has quite high reviews on like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, and even Empire gave it a 5, which I found shocking. It's like I felt like I didn't watch the same movie as some of these other reviews that I've read out there. I think that the main thing that I like about this movie is that it's a Nick Cage movie, and I freaking love Nick Cage.
Yeah,
I think everything that he does, even his bad movies, are amazing, and that's why I'm gonna also give this one a 5.9. I feel like it could have been a lot better if it wasn't so gosh dang long, as Phil would say. Yeah. And also too, if like they just made it make a little more sense and make a little more fluid.
Yeah,
other than that, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, well, Terrell, you hit the nail on the head. It's like if this wasn't a Nick Cage movie, you'd like
it would be so bad.
Fuck this movie, you know. Yeah. But yeah, like there's like it's funny because like he's become he's become such a meme that people forget how fucking awesome this guy right here is. Like he the man acts without a face. What else do you want from him?
I think we're kind of like selling Johnny Travolta a little bit short. I don't think he was any less good in this movie.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like it's like you said, Cage is a bit of a meme, and that's created this kind of like warm and fuzzy feeling around Nick Cage movies where, like Terrell said, even in his bad movies, you're like, yeah, but it's Nick Cage, you know? But we can't overlook Travolta's chops in this movie. He did a good job. And like this was pre like kind of all the weird stuff that came later in that guy's life. But you know,
oh, it was peak Scientology though.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like that's good. We did it. We got there. And I really want to take a second now to kind of switch gears and get you guys revved up and fired up. If this wasn't enough action for you, let me tell you, the next 4 episodes, we are starting a kind of a themed month called Ass Kickin' April.
Oh yeah.
Where we are going to pick 4 of the most ass-kicking movies that we can find and review them. And next week we kick it all off. The movie we're going to be doing is 300, which I think has the most deaths per second Or
More than
did
300 asses were kicked in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
way more than 300 asses were kicked in that movie. But and the song is British punk band The Clash's Should I Stay or Should I Go?
Nice.
So that's gonna be a fun time. And I'm very much looking forward to that. And unfortunately, you're going to have to wait to hear what the rest of the movies for Ass Kicking April are going to be till next week. So
I'm so excited. I just want to say this is going to be a good episode. I just want to throw this out there. If you're a listener, this is going to be one of those episodes where we're actually like the song and the movie.
Yeah.
So we'll perhaps have a better back and forth. And I really love the movie 300.
Yeah.
I think it like blurs the lines between like an amazing like film, but also kind of like comic booky, like animated almost.
Well,
like,
and like has like historical elements, right? Like because some of that, like the story ideas were actually true stuff, even if they weren't faithful to the original.
A lot of washboard abs in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Phil's gonna.
I could do my laundry on those all day.
And also the Clash, arguably like the biggest punk band of all time and well respected. So it's gonna be a good episode. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, same, man. Same. So once again, if you don't follow us on social media, what the hell are you doing? Get out there, follow us at the Stoners POV, Instagram and Twitter. We want to know what you guys want. We're doing these themed months. May's got a lot of great stuff in the pipe. We're gonna smoke it, and we hope that you will smoke it and get in on this with us. Get in on this session with us, folks.
Right on, yes.
But yeah, unless you guys have something else you want to say, I think it's about good. Yeah.
I've got one thing to say.
Okay.
Snapple.
All right. And with that, we must bid you adieu. This has been the Stoner's Point of View. My name is Brett. That's Terrell. That's Phil. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.
I'd like to take his face off.